Okay. We're going to call to order the November 7th, 2024 Corcoran Planning Commission meeting. And we'll begin with roll call. Commissioner Lind?
Here.
Commissioner Yang?
Here.
Commissioner Hargreaves?
Here.
Commissioner Kozicki?
Here.
And Commissioner Brummond is here as well. And then if you would like to join me, I invite you to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and next we're on to approving tonight's agenda. So I'll just ask staff or the commissioners if anyone has any changes that they would like to make to tonight's agenda, other than the note that was on the dais that we all received.
Staff doesn't have any amendments to it.
Okay. Yep.
I did want to bring up, I don't know the appropriate way to do so maybe I'll take coaching from staff. But I had an item that maybe we could add to the agenda or a future one around resident notification for development proposals and open hearings, perhaps creating a different policy around development within the MUSA and development outside the MUSA, and distances of the notification radius. So I don't know if tonight's the night, we could put it on a future one.
Thanks, Commissioner Lind. I think we wouldn't be able to do it tonight just because of the lack of preparation. However, next month's meeting would be the time in which we get to propose things that we would like to see as priorities for 2025, and I'm wondering if that would be the time. What happens is staff makes some suggestions, we get to make some suggestions, and then they're brought before the council, and the council gets to give us direction on that. And so what I'm thinking we should do first is bring that up on next meeting as one of your proposed priorities for 2025. And then we will take it from there. Does that seem?
Yeah, so staff prepares a draft annual report that gets forwarded to council in January. And so we can draft that knowing that that's something that you've listed, so we can have that be one of the ones that we propose next, so it'd be next month that you'd see that. I know that Chair Brummond has mentioned a couple times that she wants the accessory structure ordinance reevaluated for what actually triggers a conditional use permit versus an administrative permit. So I think that would be the one we list, and then staff will offer a few other ones for discussion as well. And
does that sound fair?
Sure, that sounds great.
So we can certainly do that.
Thanks.
Okay. So then, if no one else has any additional comments regarding tonight's agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so now we're moving on to open forum, which is the time when anyone here gets to make a comment approaching commission with something that's not on the agenda. And I just want to note that I believe you guys are here for the item on the agenda tonight. Is that correct? Perfect. Okay, so then there's no one else in the audience. And since we only receive comments from those who are present and in person, we will close. No, we don't need to close the public forum. Okay, so we'll just move on from the public forum. Sorry, guys. And on to approving the meeting minutes from October 3rd's meeting. Does anyone have any notes or comments regarding those meeting minutes? If not, I will entertain a motion to have those approved.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, and then that brings us to tonight's new business, which is the Tonka Auto Site Plan Conditional Use Permit and Interim Use Permit. And we're going to begin tonight with a staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, tonight's, the first item on the new business for tonight is a public hearing for the Tonka Auto Site Plan Amendment, Conditional Use Permit, and Interim Use Permit application. The application itself, specifically the site plan amendment and the conditional use permits are for to be allowed to operate a motor vehicle repair business at 20201 County Road 50. And the applicant is also requesting approval of an interim use permit, which would reduce the number of parking stalls required for the Alert Fire and Safety Company from 8 stalls to 2 stalls. Just a quick overview of the site itself. The location is 20201 County Road 50, just across the street from the city park. You can see just the entrance to the parking lot to the north there. The site itself is comprised of 3 separate uses: a residential use on the northeast side of the building, the office use, which houses Alert Fire and Safety Company on the northwest portion, and a motor vehicle repair business, which is Tonka Auto, which is located at this portion of the building. The reason for the application before you tonight came from a code violation which was discovered during a rental dwelling inspection last December. Staff had identified the motor vehicle repair business and noted that it had not received a conditional use permit at that time, and staff has met with the applicant and informed them of this requirement, and they have since submitted the application and brought it before you here today. The site itself is zoned light industrial, and the sites to the east and the west are also zoned light industrial, and the site to the southwest is a planned unit development with an underlying zoning district of light industrial as well. And then the property to the north is the city park, which is zoned public/institutional. The natural characteristics of the site in the 2040 comprehensive plan, there is an old field upland community identified on portions of the site, and due to its proximity to the creek to the east, the entire property is within the shoreline overlay district. So before we get into the site analysis itself, the city's discretion for this type of application for the site plan, conditional use permit, and interim use permit is that if the proposal complies with the zoning ordinance, the city must approve the site plan, conditional use permit, and that should say interim use permit as well. So the existing building itself is a legal non-conforming structure. It does not meet the required setbacks from the front yard, and it does not meet the maximum impervious surface limit for the shoreline overlay district, but it is protected as a legal non-conforming structure. The applicant plans to operate within the existing building and has no plans to expand the building itself or the bituminous area on the site itself. So more specifically, the site plan consists of striping and formalizing parking stalls for each of the uses. And should they ever plan to expand anything, any impervious surface area on the site, that will require approval of a variance. So going into the parking, the minimum setbacks for parking along a county road are 100 feet from county road frontages. However, the parking area on this property is a legal non-conforming use as well, so it is protected that way. The minimum number of stalls required for these uses can be broken down into 6 for the auto repair center, 8 for the Alert Fire and Safety Company, and then 2 for the residential use. The applicants propose 8 stalls for the Tonka Auto Center, 2 for the Alert Fire Safety Company, and then 2 for the residential. The parking stalls and drive aisles are required to comply with the minimum dimensional requirements found in section 1060.060 subdivision 4, which is on the right side of the screen here. The applicant has provided revised plans earlier today, which comply with more of these requirements, but still fails to meet the minimum aisle width. So a condition of approval will require the plans to be revised to meet these requirements. Again, yeah, The proposed site plan must be revised to meet the minimum drive aisle width requirements, but staff does find that the conditions mentioned in the report, that the application complies with the zoning ordinance standards outside of the requested variances. So staff recommends approval of the site plan with the proposed conditions. As for the conditional use permit, motor vehicle repair businesses are listed as a conditional use within the light industrial district. And the use must comply with the standards, the conditional use standards in section 1070.020. And there are some additional specific standards to motor vehicle repair, which are found in 1040.125 subdivision 4C. So a couple of those that I want to, I guess, highlight and are mentioned in the approving resolution are ones that prohibit vehicle servicing outside of the structure itself. So all of that has to be within the garage, as well as one of the requirements in 1040.125 requires parking, driveway, and circulation standards to meet the specific needs of the operation and shall accommodate large vehicle equipment and semi-trailer and tractor trucks. So the applicant's specific needs of the site don't necessarily include the use of the semi-trailer and tractor trucks. So therefore, staff is comfortable not requiring the accommodation of parking of such large vehicles, but an added condition would be that they aren't allowed to park those vehicles on that site now without proper accommodation. Going into the interim use permit, code does allow for a reduction of the required number of parking stalls through the interim use permit, which is what the applicant is requesting. So they are, for the Alert Fire and Safety Company, they are requesting that to be reduced from 8 to 2. Interim use permits are subject to the standards found in section 1070.030 subdivision 3, which staff finds that these standards have been met and recommend approval of the IUP. So at this point, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommends approval of the following draft resolutions for the site plan and conditional use permit, as well as draft resolution for the interim use permit.
Thank you, Joy. At this time, we would move into our public hearing portion. But I want to make a clarifying question. Do we usually have the applicant speak prior to opening the public hearing, or we open the public hearing and then we have the applicant speak within the formal public hearing?
I've seen it done both
Both ways,
ways, Madam
yeah.
Chair, but I think generally good practice would be to offer the floor to them real quick before
Okay.
we open the public hearing.
Perfect. All right. So I want to give you guys the opportunity. There is no requirement because we do have all of the letters and everything that's been included with the application in front of us. But if there's anything that you would like to address, you are welcome to approach the podium and make any comment. Otherwise, again, don't feel like you have to. But then what we would do next is move into quickly opening a public hearing in case anyone else were to come in and want to make a public comment. Then we close the public hearing, and then the commission begins a discussion and asking questions. And at that point in time, there may be direct questions that you get the opportunity to address as well. So,
I have nothing.
okay,
I think I'm okay.
okay.
Well, you covered it pretty well, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so at this point in time, we will quickly open the public hearing. And again, this is an opportunity for any members of the public to speak regarding the Tonka Auto Site Plan. And I just want to note again that there's no one here, and we only take comments from those who are in person. So with that being said, I will make a motion to also close the public hearing.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, and so then at this point in time, we get the opportunity to raise any questions we may have or begin a discussion. Is there anyone who would like to take the floor first?
One clarification, I think in the, unless I'm reading this wrong, in here it talks about moving from 8 stalls to 3 stalls. Is it 2? Or was that just typo? On page
Yeah.
8?
It may have changed, because I, yeah.
Or
I
yeah,
saw
maybe
that
it
too.
changed. I just don't know, is it 2 or 3?
Madam Chair, that should have been 2. I
Okay,
think
cool.
I put 3 as a tentative number.
Yep,
and then-
no, that's cool, just wanted to check.
The question that were you finished, Commissioner Lind?
Yep.
Okay. The question that I have is just, how does the CUP interact in the lifetime of this also being a resident? So say that the resident who is renting the residential portion of this property were to move on, does then a conditional use permit still exist for this property, for this specific type of business? Because they don't have they don't end, am I correct?
Want to take that? No, I shouldn't.
Sorry.
Okay, so the residence is a legal non-conforming use for the light industrial areas. So I said if the residence were to not be used as a residence for a year, for a year, then it's no longer protected as a legal non-conforming. And then at that point, they would have to use the space, either get rid of the space or use the space for industrial use per list of allowed uses in the district.
Sure.
So yeah, if the resident moves on and they're no longer renting that out, the CUP for the auto shop would still remain in place.
I guess my question is because I noted that it came up because of the new rental license. And so even if the current resident who's renting that property were to move on, but it was to be rented to another person, that CUP would continue to stay
Correct.
with that property.
Yes, the CUP is forever. It's
Forever.
diamonds are forever. So the only
Right.
reason you'd revoke a CUP is if some of the conditions
Had
are no
violated.
longer being met, yeah.
Okay. All right. I thought that was the case, but I wanted to clarify. It doesn't deter necessarily, but I just think it's something for us to note and be aware of because there's just a lot of things going on.
That's a good question.
I have a question. I see that it's still the minimum dimensional requirements for the parking, we're still 8 feet instead of 9. I don't know, that came up really quick, Dwight, so I'm not sure if it's the same as what I've got in my packet here. And then the aisle width, I think, was still a little short. The aisle width looks shorter than it was in the packet even.
Yeah,
That's
so
the
I
only one.
measured it out earlier today when it was submitted, and at its narrowest point, it's 17 feet and 3 inches. So some of the stalls do comply with the standard, but it's 3 or 4 of the stalls that do not comply with it. So specifically, these 3 stalls up here
Okay,
fail
and
to
there's
comply.
just not space on the property to really,
Yeah, these stalls will either have to be angled further or relocated to a different portion of the property.
does that have to do with number 1 on the handout here that says public safety would not be supportive of a drive aisle variance?
Yeah, it does. If the applicant wasn't able to find an alternative spot for these parking stalls and wanted to come back in for a variance, public safety has already stated that they would not be supportive of such a variance.
But what they've submitted now is okay, that's,
What they submitted, this is what they have submitted tonight, which is slightly different than what's in your packets. This does not comply with the requirement, and public safety is still unsupportive of a variance of the drive aisle width.
So right now, it's being handled as a condition of approval to allow them to work through options. And so in order for the approval to be finalized, they need to submit a parking plan that complies with the ordinance as it's written. And there's a couple more options they can pursue. There's a couple more angles they could go down to. And then if that still doesn't work, then the alternative option would be a variance. And so public safety just wanted to make their opinion clear on it, that due to the constraints of the site already, that they would want, they need to make sure that there is drive aisle space that will be able to allow for turnaround and things like that, so there's certainly, if that is something that they would need to pursue later on, they certainly can. Public safety is not the end-all be-all, they were just making their opinion clear.
How long has this business been in business?
The auto repair, my dad bought it in 2004,
Okay.
and then I just inherited it from him last year. But he started working for the previous guy in 1975.
oh,
So that's been there since 1975?
Not here,
Oh.
but we used to be in Clement, started
Oh,
off with
okay.
55 and 169, and then we sold the building and gave us 60 days to get out, so kind of was fighting for my life there for a little bit, looking for a spot to land, so Steve was nice enough to help me out with that, to keep going and whatnot, you know, so just trying to survive.
Understood.
So then the interim use permit is the only thing that we'd be approving today?
Nope, today is addressing, making a recommendation for approval of the conditional use permit. I'll pull it up. It's all three of them. It's the conditional use, excuse me, two, the conditional use permit and the interim use permit. It would be both.
And the site plan.
And a site
amendment.
plan. There was three. I thought there was three. And just making a recommendation for approval.
So I have a question. Will the decrease in parking affect or be in conflict with the other two, the residential and the other business? Is that an issue or?
Staff doesn't believe that the reduction in parking for the office would interfere with the other two uses. Based on the narrative that they had provided, it sounds like the need at this point in time is only for the 2 stalls.
Yeah, so the alert fire and safety company, staff's understanding is that at most there's 2 employees on the site and they have very little, that's at most, typically it's 1 person on site and they have very little customer traffic coming into the office space. So they are comfortable with 2 dedicated parking stalls. And that's the interim use permit. If a different use were to go into that office space, then that would trigger a need to reapprove essentially an IUP for the same amount of parking, so it allows to reevaluate the use at that point. So it's not the same as a conditional use permit where it's assumed to pass on to the next user, the next user would have to reapply.
For the variance in parking.
I would suspect that in the 20 years of operation, it really hasn't been an issue, right? Parking?
Well, I would suspect that 20 years gives them a lot of data to go off of whether or not they need more than 2 parking spaces to operate.
Mhm.
Just to be clear, there hasn't been an auto shop repair operating at the site for 20 years. It's been about a year that they've been operating there.
Oh, the auto has only been operating for a year?
We just got
Oh.
here, yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay, I was under the impression.
Clarified that a little better, sorry.
All right.
But that has 4 stalls dedicated to that, so that's
The
sufficient.
site
proposing
plan
8.
has 8, and they
Yeah.
need 6 to meet the minimum requirements. But I think with auto repair shops, in our experience, more is better because they tend to outgrow their sites pretty quickly, at least in our existing downtown area.
Does anyone else have questions or is anyone prepared?
5, 6, 7. So they currently have eight sites striped on here.
On the
They're
proposal.
adding- And they're adding 2 more.
Yep, and then I think there was a recommendation that 2 spaces also be striped and signed for the residents at all, to make sure, as well, to make sure that their uses.
So that's separate from the other
Yes.
uses.
I appreciate staff's recommendations and the conditions that you put in place for this. I think they're great. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve.
And I would second it.
And all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Okay, so we will forward that recommendation on to city council, and then when it gets onto their agenda, then they would take a look at that item. Okay, so then we are moving on to other business, and at this point in time, I just want to ask Commissioner Lind if you are going to be available on December 5th for the upcoming, or the next commission meeting. I am unable to be available that night, and so I'm checking to make sure we would have a chair. Thank you.
Oh my
And
God,
if
can I
not,
do it?
and if not, then we would need to.
That's a scary idea.
We give you a script if it makes you feel
Oh,
better.
thank goodness. Let me just check. 1 moment. I'm thinking I can, yes.
Well, we can well, we can,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, you can't make it? Okay,
Yep.
perfect, okay. And then, since we're already down to 4, if anything else comes up for the December 5th meeting, please let me know as soon as possible. I want to make sure that we have a quorum, otherwise proactively reschedule for a date that does work for everyone.
Because it is a heavier agenda than tonight's meeting, and so the earlier that you know if you would be unable, then the more time that we have to reschedule to a different date, possibly a Tuesday in that, the month of December instead of that date.
And then while we're on the topic of potentially rescheduling some meeting dates, our January meeting is Thursday, January 2nd. Wanted to get your thoughts on moving that to Tuesday, January 7th to give you guys a holiday break.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Okay, so we will make that change on our end, and then as a heads up, I'm going on vacation over July 4th, and we have a planning commission meeting on July 3rd, so we are going to just reschedule that one also to Tuesday, July 8th. And we can send you the list of the 2025 schedule, we can get that out to you via email, since there's a couple changes in there.
I won't be able to make the January 7th date.
The January 7th date? Okay.
Yep, but that's not a deal breaker, I'm just letting you know. In case anybody knew also they can't make it, then we wouldn't have quorum, right? Or,
As long as we have 3, we have a quorum.
okay,
So if we dropped below, like, if 2 additional people were gonna be gone,
Okay.
then we'd need to
okay,
reschedule.
perfect.
And I think those were the 2 dates that I had on top of my mind, taking a look at 2025. We will also have to get some training scheduled. I do an annual training session, so I'll try to get that scheduled in the first quarter, just to put on your radar.
And that would be in addition to a regularly scheduled meeting,
Yes,
it's
I
not separate.
try to do it on a meeting where we already have a light agenda, as long as I have, I don't know if January would make sense to do, but if I know it's gonna be a light agenda, then maybe I can try to pull something together by January. But yeah, I try to keep it so that it's a night that we're already planning to be here and just do it at the end of the meeting. Other than that, I don't think I have any other announcements.
Okay,
Could I ask a question?
yes, sir?
This is to Natalie, have you thought about having another plan commission training session?
Yes, so I typically do it in quarter 1.
Okay.
Actually, typically. Last year it didn't happen at all typically. But that's the goal, is to try to get something done in quarter 1,
Okay.
kind of regroup for the year.
Okay.
If there's any specific topics that you all want me to do a deep
No, I was
dive on,
just
then
thinking
let
of
me know that.
Commissioner Yang that hasn't been here and hasn't appreciated any of those.
Yeah, no, that's why I think quarter 1 would definitely be my goal. So if January turns out to be a light meeting, I'll see if I can even try to just get it done in January so we can
Yeah.
have that framework.
Commissioner
But
Hargreaves,
if Commissioner Lynn's not here, maybe we wait till February. So that we all are here.
So fun.
With Jeopardy
I don't
included.
that's what I was
wanna
gonna say,
miss it.
Commissioner Hargreaves is asking about it, because he's just anxious
No,
to
no,
play
I'm not-
Jeopardy.
No, I'm not
It
talking
was
about
competitive.
that. I'm not talking about that. I'm
Are there
talking
prizes
about-
this time?
Defending champion.
No,
Right?
no.
How about some Corcoran swag?
That's an
Freebies.
idea.
Your face on the vinyl wrap around Domino's.
No,
Oh my gosh, yes.
Kidding.
I was not thinking of that. I was thinking of those meetings where we meet in the conference room. Like-
Oh.
The
like-
kind of the
one
one-on-one
at-
trainings.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Or
can
three-on-one.
Yeah.
request my time, me or Dwight's time at any point. So I don't typically proactively do that unless I'm hearing that you'd like to. But if you want to, we can certainly do some additional one-on-one or two-on-one training, whatever works. So just let me know that's a desire and we can do that as well.
Okay, and so we're gonna indicate that was council updates as well as, staff updates. And then if there's anything related to planning project update, we'll take that along to the same thing. But if there are no questions, we'll give Counselor Barenkamp the opportunity to give us a city council report and congratulate him for being reelected.
Thank you. The only thing I'm gonna say about that is we are so lucky to have the judges we have the participants from Hope Church and St. Thomas and stuff for voting precincts and stuff. If any of you guys were any of those volunteers and such, thank you very much. It went off without a hitch. A tremendous amount, I think Jay told me over 1,000 people pre-voted before voting day. So, and if the numbers are right in my head, roughly 3,600 voters in our town voted. Our population is up just a little over 8,500 people. So the people that could vote, we had a very good turnout for voting. So this is good stuff. What are you guys hearing? Everybody sees the Domino's parcel. Both buildings are down. They were nearly down. I think there was one wall left of the locker plant when I drove by at 4:30 this morning. But that's moving along. If you pay attention to social media and stuff, there's people that say we wish Corcoran could have done better. There wasn't other applicants for that property. So I want to make sure you guys know you did a great job in your recommendations and all of the things you talked about that parcel. Extremely challenging parcel. You guys did a great job. Staff has done a wonderful job to get it to this point, and it should just keep continuing. So if anybody asks you guys any questions and stuff, feel free to give them my name. I would love to talk with them. I know I wanted a locker plant to stay. The bar and the residence was deteriorating very quickly. That property owner wanted to be out a long time ago. And when COVID hit and such, just things were deteriorating very fast. So it wasn't something that could be reconstructed or find somebody that would buy it and then stick that money into it. So I think this is a good addition. You guys again did a great job doing that. Any questions you guys got on things? Parks, did you guys see that?
There's a
master
survey
plan
out right
stuff?
now.
I thank you for
That
bringing it up.
survey is out there, make sure you're doing it. Did you want to add something there?
Yeah, I was, when you were done, I was gonna bring it up, so I just appreciate
You
that you
bet.
already segued for me. But yes, there is a survey currently available on the city's website for, some feedback on the initial design work completed for the city park remaster. There, I believe is open for 21st. If you,
Yeah.
we can also send out a copy of the link as well, but we would love your participation and please spread the word. We have received a significant amount of participation so far, the highest amount for a survey that has been done this year. So apparently, I need to do more park planning.
Just real quick on that too, you guys, I think, if I remember, and I look at a lot of numbers and stuff, I think our park fund is close to 6 million in that fund, give or take a $500,000, I'm gonna say it like that. Two parks that need to be, I think, prioritized, and I'm one of 5 people. Bellwether, we need to finish that open space park, and I think there's people that are giving input to that as far as what that could be and look like and such like that. It was originally planned to be an open space, just clean, mowed, and a place to go, but a lot of the residents are asking about a tot lot, playground, and a few other things. So we've got that as a priority. Travera down here on the south side, that's another small park for that neighborhood that needs to be done. And then the rest obviously would go into our master plan of this park. Right now, I believe the numbers, retail numbers and costs are in the excess of $11 million to build. Is it 10?
It was, yeah, it was 9, it was almost 10 million, so not quite 11 million.
But then somebody said something, but that's if we have no donations, nobody coming in and doing something different. But if you haven't seen, that includes a splash pad, a couple of different playgrounds, pickleball, redoing the tennis court, a community center, I'm gonna call it a community center, community room, with restrooms and changing rooms and stuff for the splash pad in the summer and those kind of things. So it's a big deal, but again, one of the things that we talked about as a council, there's gotta be some construction companies that would do things for less than that retail price. Just our community is such that I think people could come together and we could do something, but right now, it's gonna have to be done in stages. I think it's great, the, what is it called again, please help me? The survey that
Oh,
has gone
survey,
out,
yeah.
we get all of that information. There's people that want dog parks, there's people that want a lot of different things there. And, we're a growing community, but the funds aren't growing that fast, so.
Just to clarify, the survey wasn't sent out, so you wouldn't have received
You
it.
gotta go on the
It's just available on the website.
So we can send you
Where is it
Um,
on the website?
I'll show you when we've wrapped it up. And then there's also a few other areas where you can have a direct link and I'll take you. So I'll show you as soon as we wrap up and then make sure that you're able to fill it out.
I ramble, I don't bring notes, I like going off the top of my head. Anything you guys got questions about?
Not a question, but just Parks and Trails.
Yeah.
So I live over by the Public Works Building.
Yeah.
And my husband was out walking on the County Road, or Lake Independence Regional Trail.
19,
And he
yeah. Thank
noticed
you,
that-
tell them thank you for using it instead of you walking on the road.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
good deal.
no kidding.
Yeah, he loves that trail.
Stop
He
I
uses it
love
all
bike
the time.
traffic.
But he noticed they were cutting the trail through, that was on, Karen Amy used to own the property.
Yep, down next to the
in
creek
that
and
easement
stuff.
Next to the creek, yeah.
Yeah.
So it goes out, currently it goes out and to 10? Or does it cut
It will end
across
up
to
there, I
the?
think it's supposed to go to 10.
Or does it-
I'm trying to remember the map, I think it's a loop and it actually will come back out on 19 also.
Because 10 really doesn't have a shoulder.
Yeah.
But I think one of the
I think
plans that I
future when it
saw.
crosses, it
It'll
would-
connect to something else.
Yeah.
the
One of-
initial thought in our parks is kind of follow that creek
Yeah,
as things change out there, but it would kind of dead end at 10, because no sidewalk or anything on 10, but I think it does curl back around D&D and back out to 19.
that's what I was gonna ask, if it
And
went
then
on the
that'll
south
be-
side of D&D.
That'll be all wood chips.
Yeah.
It won't be tarred, it won't be plowed in the wintertime, those kind of things.
We were walking there and my daughter was pet sitting a little dog on a leash, and as we entered one of the wooded trails up ahead, it must have been a coyote. I could see it
Yeah,
from a
there's-
distance on the trail and
ye-
saying, watch that little dog."
And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, I stay close to the DNR. I think right now the estimated population of coyotes in Corcoran are in the excess of 700 coyotes in
So
our
we got a
Corcoran.
big population, you're saying?
Yeah,
They run right up to my back door.
I
yeah,
have heard them
my
every night.
place, they are nuisance animals.
You are.
My issue is I don't want to use a low caliber gun to eradicate and such. I'd rather use high power, but we don't allow those in town. So it's kind of a tough deal, you guys. So, but yes, there are many coyotes out there.
Yeah,
So.
they haven't caused problems for
They-
us.
they should
I
run.
do hear them
They eat my
occasionally in the
Yeah.
summer when our windows are open.
And it's great to hear them out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
When the police go by and sirens go off, those
They're
sirens
calling along.
disappear, and then all of a sudden the coyotes are talking,
Yeah.
so. No, great question, and that'll be a neat community and a neat trail, so
Yeah,
I'm
it's
glad we got
really
that
pretty
done.
there. It really goes through. There's some huge trees back there.
Yeah.
They must have had some kind of a big mulcher because they just made a first pass through and they were mulching
Yep,
big trees.
yep, it would've
I
cleaned
mean,
up
not
the
big
path.
trees,
and-
but sizable.
Yep.
One thing that I would like to make note of, since it's been
Please.
brought a couple times, is the amount of bike traffic on County Road 10.
Yeah.
And there have been 2 significant accidents, single-car accidents with medevac coming as in response on that same road. And so I don't know that there's anything that the city can do in terms of restricting bike traffic. I think it is so unwise. There's just time where there's not a lot of room to move anywhere.
I've spent Saturdays and Sundays at Marathon gas station because they all congregate there, it's a stop. And I'll tell them all, and they all come back by saying, we are careful, we are whatever, it's our responsibility. I don't want anybody hurt either.
Right, and
None
I
of us
just-
do, but boy, they sure do just go.
Well, and I understand that, trails, you have to deal with walkers and other people who may not be moving at the speed that you like.
Yeah.
I understand that there are no, ends of sidewalks when you're dealing with the road. Like, I understand why it's appealing, but it is, there's just not room on that roadway for that kind of traffic and driving safely all the time. So it's a concern, especially because I don't know what's going on our roads out on 10 and 30 and 19, and I don't know what it's gonna take to get some change out there, but.
I've talked to people, there is one bike group that comes from Wayzata. Another one comes from Crystal. Another one comes from Plymouth. And I've asked them all to please use trails when they can. And all of them have just said in no uncertain term, they have the right to be on those roads.
I understand, well, and it's,
It is crazy,
right,
crazy, crazy.
just wanted to express that, I know that.
We can call Kevin, our county commissioner. I know I've talked to him many times about the Three Rivers Trail along 19, and I know I've stopped and tried to have conversations with bikers that are riding on the road instead of on the bituminous trail.
Is that not okay if there's a shoulder on the road? I was almost under the impression that bikers should be on this shoulder and pedestrians on the trails.
It's not that it's not okay, but when you have a divided highway, that's all you have, and you have someone who, like, you have farm equipment driving on the road, and then you have what's happening, which is people skirting around because 55 is apparently not fast enough on a rural road now these days. So then you have, and so when you have that, you just don't have, there's not a lot of room. And because the shoulder is super narrow, and then
On
what you
10
have
it is.
next to it is gravel,
10 is
if you're going at the speed that you're going and you curve off even there, the likelihood that you can control that.
But if there's a
Right.
shoulder, like a 19, when the county redid that road.
It's okay.
Yeah, they
I
put the
just-
wide shoulders, they
the-
cut down the hills, so there's
The
not
issue
any
in the
visible
rules for
line.
bikes is they're supposed to be single file, and they'll be 3 or 4 abreast. They don't, they just say we have the right to be on the road.
They're bold,
Yeah.
bolder than me.
And I ask them and I tell them, it would really be nice if you go
One question I
single
have,
file, so.
I mean, we have a lot of proposed on-road bike trails, and 10 is one of them.
Yeah.
Does that wait for a county road?
It
Well,
is
they
a
just
county
did
road.
It is a county road.
No, is it waiting for a county road project? Because they've just resurfaced 10.
So I believe that's why Commissioner, or Councilman Varenkamp said that the best thing to do is to reach out to Hennepin County Commissioner Anderson, who represents our area, with requests regarding that.
One other question on the on-road trails, is that similar to the trail we have on County Road 19, where it has kind of a little median divider there, or it has a,
On-road trails are.
It's just a shoulder,
It's
basically.
a painted shoulder, but it's
Okay.
widened to
Yeah.
make it more comfortable. So typically, a lot of the ones that are proposed on-road trails, they're there because then that signifies that we need to collect a certain amount of right-of-way. Those are the plats that come in to make sure that we can allow for that improvement. But yes, typically it'd be done as part of a larger project. That's either, it's not only county roads that those are shown, so sometimes it'd be like Oakdale
yeah.
also
Yeah,
has
Oakdale
that, so that
has
would be
it.
a city project at a later date, because you don't really want to have,
Yeah.
if you could have a developer put in the painted shoulder, but it does, if it doesn't really, if it's not continuous, it doesn't really help, it's not, sometimes with the off-road trails, it's okay to kind of not worry about it being contiguous, but at the same time, it's like, if it's just a small segment, you don't really want a trail that goes nowhere, so a lot of times we'll just get the easement, and then once it's, would allow for it to be built out more, then it'd be a city project at a later date.
Just real quick, my history over in Maple Grove, the mindset over there is we were going to put a bituminous trail on one side of the road and a concrete sidewalk on the other side with expansion joints. You walk on the sidewalk, you ride your bike on the bituminous. there's miles of these things in Maple Grove and people still don't use them. They'll walk down the road or bike down the road, so
I
it,
hate biking on the road though, so I do, like, I prefer to bike on.
I'd rather not be looking over my shoulder and worrying about it, but the folks, the multiple groups that I talk to, and I'm trying not to be a nuisance, I'm concerned, I identify who I am and stuff, and I tell them I truly care, and a lot of our residents care a lot too, but the roads are tough on what they're doing, and 30, probably okay for single file, but again, they're riding 3 and 4 abreast, so if anything, our public safety group could stop them and cite them for not following their own rules. Many of them will drive through stop signs. They won't even stop to the stop signs. They just think you're a pedestrian. And I just try to ask as nice as I can. You gotta obey the rules as much as possible. Great comments. Thank you very much. And again, if you guys ever have anything, you have my number. Leave a message. If I don't answer, I will call you back.
Congratulations on your
Yeah.
win.
Thank you, and if you didn't vote for me, let me know why. Let me know what I can do better, okay? I don't know if I'll run again in 4 years, but I want to do everything I can for everybody.
Well, we appreciate that you come to these meetings
Thank
to
you.
have that input. It's
Thank
really,
you.
really nice.
If there isn't anything else to bring up, I'll just make note of the suggested liaison calendar. The only thing I'm gonna note about it, Commissioner Hargreaves, is if you were planning on doing it, just note that it's a Monday because it's a holiday week. But again, those are completely optional at this point in time. And so with that, then I will make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, we are done.